I'd now like to invite Fiona Davies to come up and speak. So Fiona is from our group procurement team, and she is currently on secondment from the bank, spending 6 months at Reconciliation Australia. So it's one of our, I mentioned earlier in my earlier remarks about the skilled volunteering secondment program. So Reconciliation Australia is the peak body for reconciliation in Australia. They're great friends of many of us, and they asked for some help, and we've loaned Fiona to them for 6 months. So she's got to head, at the end of this breakfast, she won't be going back downstairs to CBA. She's going out to Surrey Hills to FRA. So it's great to have her here and to hear how she's going on her secondment. So welcome, Fiona.
Hi everyone. I would also like to show my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, of elders past and present, on which this meeting takes place. So I'll begin by telling you the role that I'm in. I'm actually, while it's a skill volunteering, I'm not bringing to Reconciliation Australia subject matter skills they don't have. I'm just more of what they do have, but I'm dedicated and I'm free to focus. So I've been lucky enough in this role to have two very distinct jobs. The first 2 months was primarily preparing for two high-profile events in Parliament House. It was the Reconciliation Action Plan Showcase, and the previous night a dinner with the PM, which RA hosted, and with 40 CEOs from around the nation. So my role when I got there was to, on my second day, I emailed 40 businesses chasing up pieces for this showcase. So Karen up in the back table from KPMG, I got to know her well through that period. So I've been very lucky with the two distinct roles. So I'll have some photos in a minute about the Canberra event. But the 4 months since then, I've been working at a much more relaxed pace, or a normal pace, and I've been bringing my, I suppose, corporate knowledge to the charity in regards to all of the organisations that have a RAP. How can we better embed that RAP across all of their employees? So while it's great to have one, I must admit I didn't know CBA had one. So it's very much focusing on how to give the tools to the RAP contacts out in those organisations to spread the message and get to all the people is what I've been doing since then. So the benefits I've found from this secondment, it's been a fantastic exposure to corporate government and NGO sectors. It's a real melting point. Reconciliation Australia are a catalyst for these conversations and bringing the three areas together. I must say the flatter hierarchy, I've been, I suppose, working in the bank where there's layers and layers of management and getting approvals. Very different. I was, sort of day two, I was the expert in the organisation because I progressed things more. So I was given a long leash to just do what was necessary. I've met a lot of fantastic people, and I guess through this first 2 months it was very intense. So I've increased my network exponentially, but I've got to know people quite well. Some of them I was talking to daily for sort of a month leading up to these events, so it was quite an intense period. I've been included in RA's strategy, so that's been, as an outsider, I've been welcomed and allowed to see all of the inner goings on of their company, which I found very useful. And this is probably the role in my career that's been most aligned to my passions and my skill set, so it's been a very natural fit. I've actually got a graphic design background, so being that key liaison between events and agencies was quite suited to me. So in regards to my skills development, the immersion in the Indigenous space, I share an office in Surrey Hills. There's 3 of us from Reconciliation Australia, but also in that office is Recognise, which is the campaign arm of Reconciliation Australia. So they're working toward the referendum to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution, and their journey around Australia begins later this month. So here's a photograph just to show you what the RAP showcase looked like in Canberra. That's the Great Hall. Around the edge you can see 40 booths, or it's like a trade show, but it was quite artistically beautiful. So we were very strict on I suppose how he wanted it to look. It was the concept behind it was like an open book, so it was corporate Australia as well as government and the not-for-profit sector, their contribution to reconciliation. So it was one story, one message. That's the Reconciliation Australia team. I'm on the right wearing a walkie-talkie, so that was pretty cool. Being in Parliament House and hearing things through my walkie-talkie like eyes on the PM 1 minute. So that was quite good. And this is just a couple of photos of the event. We had Thelma Plum, an Indigenous artist, who was the entertainment that day. So in regards to the best way for a corporate to support volunteering, I must say, all credit to Nathan and his team. I've had a fantastic experience. It happened very quickly for me. I think from the moment I was approached until the moment I started was 4 weeks, and that included 2 weeks off at Christmas, so it was quick. When I went into my role, Reconciliation Australia had a very clear position description, which was how I was appointed. And so that has been, I think, pivotal to me knowing what I'm doing there, measuring what I'm delivering, and keeping on track. So my manager there also, I suppose, protects me from creep. I'm there to do that role. So having that position description bolted down just makes that clear. One thing that probably would have helped my secondment would have been a little bit of exposure to the Indigenous space before I started, but wasn't critical in that I was on the ground and moving very quickly, and it was such a tight time frame that in hindsight that might have been useful. And another great part of my secondment has been the transparency. Reconciliation Australia have been very open with saying to all of their corporate partners, Fiona's on Len from CommBank. It's just kept it simple for everyone. There's been no mystique. And while away, a few things that I think would help with a secondment of my Len. I have been included in the performance review back at the bank here, so I'm not missing out. Logistics are a bit tricky because my manager who's rating me doesn't have access to the system, so that sort of thing. I've made it my job to keep in contact with my manager and manager once removed at the bank just to, I suppose, keep me on their radar, and it's helped me to feel connected as well. I was lucky enough to take a laptop with me that had system access, so I can see who's left, what's going on. I still get the CEO's note, that sort of thing. And I've had a voluntary project on the go as well, which has kept me in touch with my colleagues and still visiting the bank, so I still feel like I work there, which I think will make re-entry easier. So something to be, I suppose, useful. My opinion is that people who would take a 6-month secondment probably weren't very happy where they were. So helping with them with re-entry support is quite critical. How do they come back to the business, whether it's the same role or how that's facilitated. I am going back to the role I came from, so I'm looking forward to that. And just to wrap up, in regards to my experience about how I feel about Commonwealth Bank, I just feel so fortunate. It's been such a privileged opportunity. I feel so grateful to the bank for allowing me to do that. I really do feel I've got fresh eyes. I've stepped out of my world. I've come into contact with so many other businesses, cultures, ideas and people. So I feel really energised, and I'm keen to come back and sort of share what I've learned. I actually was able to employ Reconciliation Australia's framework across a job I was doing back at CommBank already, which I think I worked out I was missing the respect part of a project I was leading, which I wouldn't have considered unless I applied a framework I'd learnt over something, so that was important. And I think I'll bring back a lot of new contacts to help me in my job where I am now. And then one final point, it's quite a funny dynamic being somewhere for 6 months where the people that are paying you don't know what you're doing and don't have to look at you. And the people that do manage you don't really, because they're not paying you, they don't really have that pull. So I must say managing annual leave and sick leave would be something to consider, of a consideration, a long secondment. I sort of think to myself, I should enter that day into the system, and I do, but it would be easy not to. So it's just something to bear in mind, sort of who's looking after the admin. And that's it. Thank you.
And that was the slide we would have had for Michael, but he had to finalise. Thank you, Fiona. That's fantastic to share your experience. We're very new at this, so it's always great to learn. Every comment I keep saying to Fee, we're learning along the way, every day we're learning something new about how to run this program. And one of the big things which Fiona alluded to is that with these sort of programs, we've got 50,000 people in the bank, so we obviously can't send everybody on secondment at once. There'd be no one left to run to man the tellers and keep the ATMs working. So it's great to telling the story is really important. That's one of the things we spend a lot of time doing. So to finish out sort of our little piece, I want to share a very short, quick video, which is something we've put together for Volunteer Week. It's an internal video, so the call to action won't be relevant to any of you except the my three managers here. But I thought I might share with you the way that we position volunteering across the bank and how we sort of align it back to the bigger brand that you'll all be familiar with.